Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hello friends, today we're going to be playing the Would You Rather Commander 2019 set review game. In this game, we're going to be looking at new cards printed in Commander 2019 and comparing them to budget staples. We're only going to be looking at commons and uncommons since we're a budget player. And for a card to be considered a budget staple, it has to have been in more than one of the 58 decks from my 2018 or the previous year's $2 Commander League that I participated in. The Commander review is a little bit different from a regular set review in that even though a card is listed as a common or an uncommon, it's equally rare as the new rare and mythic cards, pun unintended, because they're printed in the same amount. So it's hard to tell, but Wizards of the Coast, gives that card a rarity based on how powerful they think it is. So that gives us a little bit of a tell at how desirable that card's going to be. So hopefully these cards will be $2 or $2 Commander, $2 Highlander available. All right, first card we're going to be looking at is Cliffside Rescuer. So would you rather run, if you only had one slot left for your deck, Cliffside Rescuer or Apostle's Blessing? Cliffside Rescuer is a 2/2 core soldier creature that costs 1 colorless and 1 white, has vigilance, and tap, sacrifice Cliffside Rescuer. Target permanent you control gains protection from each of your opponents until end of turn. Downside to Cliffside Rescuer in this comparison is that it's a lot slower. Apostle's Blessing is an instant, Cliffside Rescuer is a creature, and you have to be able to tap it to protect something. Upside is that you can protect any permanent, not just an artifact or a creature, and it protects it from players, so your opponents, as opposed to just a color or artifacts. In this comparison, I would rather run Apostle's Blessing simply for the upside of the speed, so you can do it at instant. It costs 1, and it has the versatility of Phyrexian mana, so it could cost 1 and 2 life, or 2 mana, 1 and a white. And most of the time, it's going to be able to protect what you need. No, it doesn't protect your enchantments, or planeswalkers, or your lands, but I can do it in that instant, as soon as I need to, as opposed to Cliffside Rescuer has to be on the table, and I have to have untapped with it or given it haste. And I'm usually probably going to want to give something else haste, because most of the time I'm giving something else haste, it's because I have Swiftfoot Boots out. So, Apostle's Blessing gets the win in my book here. Next comparison is, would you rather run Leadership Vacuum or Exclude? Both of the cards cost 3, 2, and a blue. Leadership Vacuum is an instant that reads, target player returns each commander they control from the battlefield to the command zone, and then draw a card. Leadership Vacuum is great because I can use it anytime. I don't have to just have the mana up and be able to counter it, which Exclude has to be able to do. It's also great in that it can get partner commanders, so if your opponent has 2 commanders out, it can hit both of them. It can also hit planeswalkers, which Exclude only gets creatures. The downside to Leadership Vacuum is that it can only hit commanders, and Exclude can not only counter your opponent's commander, assuming it's a creature, which most of the time it is, especially for us budget players, but sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so Exclude can hit other things, but Leadership Vacuum, I think, has a greater upside in that you can cast it anytime. Commander is usually, a big key to the deck or helps the deck synergize together a lot better. So I'm going to give the win to Leadership Vacuum in this comparison. Next up, we have Meyer in Misery, which is a 2-costed sorcery, 1 and a black. And it reads, each opponent sacrifices a creature or an enchantment. I most closely compared this to Vonus Hunger, which is a 3-drop instant for 2 and a black. So downside to Myra Misery, it's a sorcery. You got to cast it on your own turn, as opposed to Vonus Hunger, a little faster. Other downside is Myra Misery only gets 1 permanent, which is going to be a creature or enchantment, which is cool. That's a new thing. Black has not had enchantment removal historically, so this gives it the chance to do so, although it seems hard to get it off. You pretty much have to use a board wipe and then cast this right after, or have one of your teammates cast a board wipe and then you get to play this card before the other opponent's enchantment that you're worried about. So it seems hard to get the enchantment if that's what you're hoping for. Vonus Hunger has the upside of being able to get multiple permanents, assuming you have the City's Blessing. So if you got 10 or more permanents out, and your opponent or opponents have 3 or more creatures, 3 creatures, you're going to they're going to have to sacrifice 2. If they got 5 creatures, they're going to have to sacrifice 3, and so on. So that was really nice. I'm going to give my vote to Vonus Hunger simply because it's going to get a lot of creatures, which is great if it's in the late game, or if I need it early game, or my opponent's playing some kind of Voltron deck, I can get rid of their creature as well. I can also do it at instant speed, so I'm going to go with Vonus Hunger most of the time. Next comparison, would you rather run Hate Mirage or Grab the Reins? Hate Mirage is a new card that costs 4, 3, and a red. I guess I should just say the actual cost. Costs 3 and 1 red, so a total of 4. It's a sorcery that reads, choose up to 2 target creatures you don't control. For each of those creatures, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So copy 2 really big things that your opponents have, and then attack them with it, or attack one player with it. Seems like a good way to finish somebody off, given the right circumstance or situation. Grab the Reins was the closest comparison. There weren't really any 2DH staples that made copy tokens of creatures that were in red, but Grab the Reins allows you to gain control of a creature, so steal a creature your opponent controls, and then you can attack them with it. Yes, you're only getting 1, so that kind of sucks. But it has also the other options. You can steal the creature, or you can sacrifice a creature to deal damage equal to that creature's power to a creature or player. So fling it at something, which is nice. If your opponent's going to destroy your creature, you can sacrifice it anyway and then deal some extra damage. It's usually going to be a big thing that your opponent's getting, unless you have a really good utility creature out. Grab the Reins had the extra benefit, though, of having Entwine, which allows you to do both. So you're probably going to steal your opponent's big thing and then sacrifice their big thing to fling it at their other creature, so you can kill 2 creatures with it, or fling it at their face and finish them off. Entwine is pretty expensive. It's going to cost you a total of 7 mana, 5 colorless, and 2 red. But, late game, if that you don't have much going on, seems good. I'm going to lean towards Grab the Reins, although Hate Mirage seems fun. Grab the Reins, I think, is going to help me win more often. Next comparison was our new green card, Uncommon Creature. It's a 3/3 that costs 2 colorless and 2 green. And it says, when Voice of Many enters the battlefield, draw a card for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than you. So my closest comparison was Harmonize, a sorcery for 2 and 2 green, which just says draw 3 cards. So in a 4-player pod, the most cards you're going to draw off of Voice of Many is 3 cards anyway. In a bigger game, I don't really, 5 players is the most usually I play for free-for-alls anyhow. So maybe you get 4 cards off of it, but most of the time, you're at best going to draw 3 cards and you get a creature. So upside is you get a creature versus Harmonize, you don't. Downside is the timing of it. You have to make sure you have more creatures out than your opponents, which is a win more card. So you already have to be winning. This was a hard one because I do like having bodies out, having creatures that you can block with. So I still am going to go with Harmonize, but this was a tough choice for me. Next comparison was Bloodthirsty Blade. It was hard for me to actually find an equal comparison because there weren't any gold equipments. There wasn't anything that was like this. So this is a new kind of thing. I like it. It seems fun. Seems like the Chaos or Red style player is going to really dig this card. The most commonly played card for our 2DH staple at 2-drop equipment was Swiftfoot Boots, which doesn't really compare, and I think almost everybody would rather run Swiftfoot Boots anyway. There were a few others, Black Blade Reforged and Hero's Blade, that were also 2-drops that were pretty good, but I didn't think that they were maybe as good of comparisons. Anyhow, today we're comparing to Mask of Avacyn, and the main reason was that they kind of were opposites of each other. Bloodthirsty Blade, you're going to put it on your opponent's stuff, and now they have to attack each other with it, which is fun and, gets people are having to get moving, and a lot of times clears the board of your stuff. But downside is it also creates enemies for you. If you attach this to your opponent's creature, they might not have artifact removal to be able to get rid of Bloodthirsty Blade, but they might be coming for you as best they can from that point forward because they want to get rid of that Bloodthirsty Blade or get you to attach it to something else. So I felt like this card kind of creates enemies, whereas a Mask of Avacyn is shielding you from enemies. Not that you're not trying to win, but this can help you protect important stuff, and it was kind of a expensive ability. I think it just depends for me on the type of deck that I'm playing. If I'm trying to have just kind of play a fun, goofy, silly deck, then I'm going to play Bloodthirsty Blade, and that's fine. But usually I'm going to run Mask of Avacyn if I only had one slot left and I had to pick between these two cards. Our final comparison is a new creature called Scaretiller. It's a 4-costed artifact scarecrow creature. 1 power and 4 toughness. And it says whenever Scaretiller becomes tapped, choose 1. Option 1 is put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And option 2 is return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This card seems really slow to me. You have to put it out, wait a turn cycle, and then you can attack somebody with it maybe on turn 5, assuming you didn't ramp into playing this before that. So you're probably going to get 1 trigger off of it because you're going to swing into somebody that's going to be able to block it and eat it, or maybe you get multiple triggers off of it. But already this is now turn 5, so you played 5 lands, and then you have to have another land still in your hand to be able to get the first option, or you have to have a land in your graveyard to be able to return it to the battlefield. So you're hoping for a lot of things here to go right, to be able to have either Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Myriad Landscape in your graveyard, or you have lands in your hand, or maybe you have an equipment that allows your Scaretiller to tap to be able to, recur this or do it over and over again. If I was playing a Tap Matters deck, I would run this. Otherwise, I'm going to probably be running Wayfarer's Bauble, just because it costs 1, so it comes out early. You can pay it in increments in that you can pay the 2 whenever you need to and go get a land. And I hardly ever have people remove Wayfarer's Bauble, usually only if they're, casting Tribute to the Wild or something where everybody has to sack a artifact or enchantment, and then, that's the one you have out, or that's probably the one you'd sacrifice anyway. So those are our new cards that were common or uncommon. Some fun choices I liked. Leadership Vacuum seems really powerful, and some of them seemed a little bit weaker. I'm a fan of them not, ramping up the power too much, so I like the new cards in this set. Notable 2DH reprints. These are cards that were getting close to or had surpassed the $2 level in the last calendar year. Myriad Landscape, Command Tower, both great lands that I like to run. Reliquary Tower is another one that sees a lot of play. I don't play it too much because I feel like having 7 lands is enough, or 7 cards in hand is enough, but it's a good utility land that a lot of people like. So there were a lot of reprints throughout the decks. Here was a breakdown of decks and how many reprints they had as per my league from last year. So Kadena had 34 cards that were staples, Gyard had 36, Angie had 31, and Savine had 30. All the decks, seem pretty solid. Do note that each of them had 15 to 20 lands that were staples, and then the remaining cards were spells that were staples. So solid decks. My question to you, or question of the day, is in these comparisons, which spell would you rather play? And maybe just tell me in the comments between the two that were hardest for you to decide. For me, it was the Voice of Many versus Harmonize. That's a little bit tougher of a choice because I do like having more creatures out on the battlefield. Anyhow, let me know down in the comments, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Peace! Thanks for watching. You can help support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. This will help keep you up to date on content from Budget Commander. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on this topic. And if you think someone else could benefit from this video, feel free to share. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you next time.